Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in north central Nebraska, where one person is injured and several homes are destroyed after a tornado tore through the town of Whitman Tuesday night. Take a look at this video. It comes to us from the Grant County Sheriff. The worst damage, half a mile south of the village, but the tornado also hit Whitman itself. Sheriff Michael Rath has requested that only emergency personnel and residents enter the affected areas at this time. Meanwhile, the Missouri River has reached moderate flood stage. It's the first major test of the billion-dollar improvements to southeast Nebraska's flood mitigation since the 2019 flooding disaster. I had a chance to visit with Dan Swanson about whether or not the new system is passing the test. How are things there? How are folks seeing the new changes that have been made to flooding infrastructure down there holding up to these rising river levels this time around?
We actually have good news this morning with the latest hydrographs that are being produced by the National Weather Service and the Corps of Engineers. We've been watching these forecasts crest below a major flood stage all the way down the river from Blair to St. Joseph, Missouri. This morning, they actually lowered those a little bit. Those forecasted crests are a little bit lower. So instead of being, 0.5 of a foot off of, let's say, the crest at Brownville, now maybe even a foot. Right now, there's moderate flooding going on from Blair all the way down to Rulo. The Corps of Engineers, of course, is saying they anticipate that the levee system will function as designed, which the water comes up, the water goes down, the levees capture that, and in a couple days by Sunday, the whole thing could be over. And people are just talking. Basically, this is a levee system that was rebuilt. 350 miles of levee system was rebuilt after the 2019 flooding. That included over 100 breaches. That included breaches that were like 80 feet wide and 60 feet deep. Nothing like that is happening now, of course. Most of the floodwater, the rainwaters that came and it caused flood were upstream of the reservoirs. The Corps of Engineers is able to hold back that water through the dam system, also as designed. But they are saying, look, they're brand new levees. They are untested. And some people are saying they should be considered to be vulnerable until they are tested. So in the Missouri, the emergency management director in Missouri is telling people you got to get your farm equipment out of the lowland. If you're inside, the Corps of Engineers says that although they expected levees to hold, they're telling people to be vigilant, know your evacuation routes, and this sort of thing. Whatever, we just anticipate that things will go smooth and that this will be a victory for the river navigation system and the levee system.
Excellent. Well, great information there from Dan Swanson, who's been monitoring this for us. Really the first test of this billion-dollar infrastructure that was built after the flooding of 2019. Dan Swanson, thank you so much for joining us.
Yep, thank you.
Meanwhile, Iowa just now beginning to recover from their own disastrous flooding, and a Nebraska man is preparing to send items to families in need in an effort to repay the help the state received during floods 5 years ago. Luke Stera has more from Norfolk.
Flooding forcing families from their towns. A disaster declaration earlier this week.
Businesses are shuttered, main streets have been impacted, hospitals, nursing homes, and other care facilities were evacuated. Cities are without power, and some are without drinkable water.
Austin Harrison, a trucking and landscaping owner, is preparing to send items to Iowa. Toilet paper, diapers, cleaning supplies. All necessities Austin says the families need in Iowa.
Whether it's a penny or a dollar or a roll of toilet paper, or a pack of toilet paper, just whatever you can possibly give up to help somebody else, that's really what we're after here.
Harrison says the semi will stay in Norfolk until Saturday.
Really a lot of your cleaning supplies, dental.
But if it's not full enough, they will keep it until next week.
I feel like a lot of us have a lot to be grateful for. we just live in a pretty good part of the world, and we can team up a lot of people to just really help when we can in bad times like this.
It was only 5 years ago Nebraskans were dealing with a similar weather disaster.
I watched a lot of people from out of state come up and help us, and I thought it was time for us to pay back.
Widespread flooding across the state prompted state officials to call upon the federal government. But many Nebraskans had to rely on help from their neighbors, both in-state and out-of-state. Harrison Semi can be found in the Our Savior Lutheran Church's parking lot in Norfolk. Reporting for News Channel Nebraska, this is Luke Stera.
A police department in central Nebraska is turning to a new tool in its most challenging moments. Michael Shively gives us the first look at the Bearcat.
So come on in.
For the first time, the Kearney Police Department is showing off its Bearcat armored vehicle.
It hauls 10 to 12 people.
Sergeant Greg Benson leads the department's emergency service unit.
Typically, we put our negotiator in the front passenger seat.
The Bearcat is custom built by the company Lenco and has been with Kearney Police for 18 months. But Wednesday night was the first time it was on display for the public to peer inside.
But this turret,
it's full of features meant to enhance officer safety
rotates 360 degrees.
And the safety of the community.
You just push out on the gun port and you can put your barrel of the weapon out the gun port.
But its most important feature is the most apparent. It serves as a mobile piece of armor in a crisis situation.
I now have the means where I can enter into a piece of armor and I can approach that individual knowing that I am safe, and we might be able to deploy some form of negotiations with this individual at somewhat of a closer distance and hopefully get a peaceful resolution.
Kearney Police used the Bearcat 6 times last year, and they've used it 3 times so far this year. Earlier this month, the department deployed the Bearcat to the Platte River when officers say an armed woman was having a mental health crisis. They were able to safely put the woman into protective custody.
This vehicle was able to get extremely close to that person safely without putting anybody in harm's way. That's where you see contemporary policing. You talk about 21st century policing. This vehicle fits in the model 21st century policing.
Modern policing comes with a price tag. The Bearcat, which is one of just 3 of its kind in Nebraska, cost $331,000. But Benson says its versatility to be used in standoffs with people considering suicide and for rescues during natural disasters makes it an invaluable tool.
We want to help people. This vehicle isn't there to inflict harm on anybody. It's to give us an advantage to do our job safely and in turn keep the public safe, keep the suspects safe.
In Kearney, Michael Shively, News Channel Nebraska.
The city of Beatrice is getting a huge federal boost toward a proposed Court Street corridor project. Mayor Bob Morgan says the city has learned it's getting a $21.3 million federal grant through the RAISE program. Morgan said the city hired a Washington-based consultant to help search out grants like the one the city's getting. Officials have spoken of moving truck traffic a block south of Court Street and making the downtown area more pedestrian-friendly and improving safety. The grant will help with a project adopted by Beatrice's City Council last year to transform the access and safety along Court Street. And the positives and negatives of artificial intelligence continue to be debated, but many farmers in Nebraska say they're seeing a lot of benefit from incorporating AI into their operations. Andy Klassen has more.
2 words are causing quite a stir across the entire ag industry, impacting not only the future of manual labor, but also the software used to operate its heavy machinery. And I'm not talking international harvester, I'm talking artificial intelligence. While there's a level of fear or uncertainty across the industry, Charles Barron of the FBN Network, Farmers Business Network, who's already developed an AI model, sees too much of a positive impact that this new software is going to create.
Suddenly with AI, an AI can assist a farmer at understanding almost any number of questions or problems or scenarios. So you can use AI to ask machinery questions, you can use it for agronomic support, you can use it for marketing support. We built an AI called Norm, named after Norman Borlaug, and it's an ag-specific AI model. And farmers can come on, talk to it, and think of it as an extension of your brain, an extension of the universe of knowledge that's out there. And instead of going to Google and trying to find the answer, you ask AI the question, and AI is going to interpret everything that it's learned from the internet, as well as specific ag knowledge that we've trained the models on, to then give you farm-specific context and information. So you can ask it about chemical products, pests, application timings, mixing, and it's also really, really good at doing things like equipment diagnostics. You can ask it a very specific or kind of vague question, like I have this model tractor and I'm hearing this noise, and it will give you a diagnosis, and it's remarkably powerful.
Kyle Lechtenberg, a Nebraska corn and alfalfa farmer, also shares a lot of optimism when it comes to AI within the ag industry. He also sees how it could add a lot of certainty to the quality control component of our food supply system.
When I think of artificial intelligence in farming, it has mostly to do with precision agriculture and how future decisions are going to get directed. I don't think we're where we want to be, but there's things in place that AI is going to be a big role in the future in terms of tractor operations, automation, and how it relates to the end product. And at the end of the day, I think it actually is going to be a positive benefit to quality control of our food system.
One of the main concerns when it comes to AI and all these new technologies is how flimsy or fragile they can be. Earlier this spring, a solar storm knocked out communications between the satellites and the farm equipment that was used to guide. But that's another point that Charles Barron would like to point out, that this new artificial intelligence could actually help us predict the weather.
You can ask it about the weather. It's aware of the weather. You can ask it about, should I plant today? And we have to hook it up to weather models and then soil moisture models and things like that, but you can do that.
Reporting for News Channel Nebraska, while C3PO hasn't taken my job quite yet, I'm Andy Klassen.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.